Yo, hello there. So this is the new preseason PPE updates that I'm gonna showcase to you guys, specifically on Rumble. What should you build? Now ignore my runes. These are just some random runes. Of course, you should get your runes accordingly to your game. But I want to talk about these new items. So these new items also provide you different type of effects as well. Right, you can see these round effects as well. So basically there is an item called Malignant that of course applies a AoE effect. It also reduces a mod, right? Which also reduces the cooldown of your ultimate. Now, notably, let's just sell all of the items, right? And so let's talk about the items you should generally rush. So, boots are pretty much same as before. So boots, you shouldn't worry too much about them. Now, generally speaking, Rocket Belt is a good option. In fact, this is what the game will show you. To buy is definitely great if you value having a extra dash to sort of get close. Generally speaking, into range champs, this should be your item of choice, especially if there is something important to dodge. But also one of the notable things, it's insanely cheap, 2,500. Its item components are not necessarily awful. 50 ability power, while also note it provides a on ability effect, right? Damaging a champion deals an additional damage. Of course, it's gonna broken on your basic attack, so it's a bit similar to Comet in a way. Then of course, Kindle Gem just provides you cooldown, HP, not all that bad. But for example, if you're facing a champion where you sort of value having some extra DPS, Liandry is your item. Liandry is way better right now on Rumble. The reason for that is very simple. It doesn't provide mana anymore, it provides HP, so you're not squishy, of course, and ability power. Now it does not provide cooldown as before, but don't worry about too much, because it's not a big necessity to get cooldown. It will be a bit harder to get to sort of overheat yourself, right? So you gotta time your overheatings, right? Now from the other hand, we got it against tanks. Generally against tanks, against champions, you're gonna go in an extended fight. This will be definitely worth. This is definitely your item. While also one notable feature is that it ticks less. It only ticks for 3 seconds. 3 seconds, my bad. Before it was 4 seconds, right? But it's not inherently bad, because now it deals 2% damage. Before it dealt 1%, but of course it had like a flat additional like flat damage, like it has a flat damage and it has a percentage HP damage, right? Now also it doesn't provide the 12% bonus damage as before to champions that have a more HP than you, but you have a suffering passive, right? So ideally you need to like proc it completely the suffering, so you get the 6% damage. So damage wise it will be similar as the old Liandry, but way more buildable than before, right? While note, first of all you wanna like proc the torment as I said, and then fully commit ideally. But even if you wanna fully commit, you're gonna stack it up in no time, so it shouldn't really be a big concern. Okay, but what should you build second? So at most we got what should we build as a first item. It's usually Protobelt or Liandry. Now in some games you could arguably even go Seekers into a Tryndamere perhaps. Seekers Amguard is super useful. The reason behind that is very simple, because it gives you a stasis effect, right? Which allows you to survive a dive or something, right? Then you can get to Zonye, which has way more AP than before, a bit more armor. So it's definitely really strong right now, Zonye, because it provides more damage. So in some games definitely Zonye is very considerable as an item. But let's move on from Zonye. Morella Monicon is the same as before, but it doesn't provide magic pen and it provides cooldown. It's not really worth to rush, but it's way cheaper than before. Now if you're in a matchup where you would consider going for Oblivion Orb, I'm like, it's fine. Finishing the anti-heal is interesting because you're gonna get some. It's very cheap, right? That's the good thing about Morella Monicon. So arguably it may not be that bad because it gives you an early spike, but you really got to ask yourself if it's really worth to finish it. I wouldn't really, even if it gives an earlier spike, in my opinion. But let's move on. Let's move on to the other items you should build now. Archangel stuff, not it's something you shouldn't really build as before. I checked it, but it's basically almost the same as before, and it's just not really worth to build. Now Storm Surge, again, it's definitely a thing that's worth to build, but note this is a bit similar to Phase Rush because it provides you a speed whenever you throw your combo in, right? While also it provides a AoE damage, right? So this is the type of item you would go for if you want to snowball and you're playing maybe a Rumble jungle or ideally mid lane. On top lane, this is a bit less so valuable because this item is a bit more team fight oriented and a bit more roaming oriented. Now this is how it will look like. Of course, you're gonna get a small it's similar to a Electrocute. I always call this item a combination between Electrocute and plus Phase Rush, right? That's how this item will feel like. As you can see, we can really quickly proc it. It's kind of like a Phase Rush and a little bit like an Electrocute. That's how I call the item. It's definitely great. Generally, you can go for this item as a second offensive item. Generally, it's great. But from the other hand, the other notable option that I like is actually the new Riftmaker. Now, why do I even say Riftmaker? It can provide you up to 10% damage. Now, I know it's not true damage as in the past, but too much about true damage, you shouldn't worry, just because you are depend MR by quite a lot on Rumble. And so the notable feature about the new Riftmaker is that you'll be able to, as I said, get 10% Omnivamp, and this is the only Omnivamp item in the game. Now, healing is not a big deal on Rumble, it's not a big necessity, but the Void Infusion will also provide you some degree of bonus HP based AP, right? Gain 2% of your bonus health as ability power, and most of your items that you will build on Rumble, if we check them out, does provide HP, many items, many new items do provide some degree of HP that you're gonna build on Rumble anyways. So it does actually synergize a little bit with those type of items. Not all of them, of course, but some of them do provide you. I think this number is bugged on the ability power. It does provide more ability power, but I think it's just bugged, honestly. So in total, you're gonna get like 16% bonus damage if you stack these things up. Which is definitely great. It's just really for extended fights, right? Healing is probably not all that bad. It's definitely great in extended fights. In fact, that's like the only like good thing where it provides extra damage into champions where you wanna go into extended fights. Where let's say like Void stuff is not that useful because they don't quite build a lot of MR. So you kinda wanna go for a Riftmaker because it gives everything that you need. Now arguably the other option is damaging an enemy champion with an ability, grants movement speed, and this item is generally great. Another item that you wanna combine with Protobelt, but it's not a big deal if you don't. Now how Cosmic Drive works, the new Cosmic Drive works is really simple. You get that juicy 5% movement speed, which is actually really good. Cooldown, HP, AP, all that really good, and 60 movement speed that scales up, of course, with levels. So what does that allow you to do? For example, if you press a Q, you're gonna get continuous mobility, right? That's actually insane. So your Rumble spacing will be really good. It's not only against range matchups, but it also helps you space really well on Rumble. And also like you can engage waves more smoothly due to the 60 bonus mobility from approach velocity, while also you have a Protobelt as well to sort of gap close, right? So this is the type of item you build in games where you want to have a little bit of a more sidestepping power, a bit more gap close, generally against range matchups, right? Now okay, let's move on to the Caster's Companion. Now don't worry about these items that provide you mana. It's not a big deal. Crypt Boom, for example, another item, right? As you can see. Whenever you get a takedown on an enemy champion within 3 seconds of damaging them, create a healing Nova on their location that heals allies, right? by 50% of your ability power and 50 flat, while the user is dead, life from that cannot trigger. So is this item bad? Is this item good? It's actually better than Void Staff. Now why do I even say it's better than Void Staff? Well, it's cheaper. Now it provides 10% less juice, less magic penetration, right? And 20 less AP, right? Now that's not an issue because the passive itself, the light from that, is very strong. So if you have the type of comp that generally you want to have Rabadon as well, by the way, so that healing is actually very juicy. So you have the type of comp in your team that can really easily secure one kill. You have this, say Alessandro or Viego, this type of champions that like to oh my god. This type of damn. This type of champions, sorry. This type of champions that really value having some extra healing. Meantime they are getting their resets, so they can go for further on more kills. I know that it has a 1 minute cooldown, so generally speaking you'll be able to only proc it once, but let me showcase it to you guys how this looks like when you get a kill. Where is the enemy cog now? Because you already have like enough pen from Yuri, right? Like you don't necessarily need 10% much more pen from Void Staff. So say this is how it looks. Let me just damage my HP as well. Of course, I just post some allied champions as well, so we can visually see like the healing itself, right? Okay. Oh, we have the healing on, my bad. Right, we saw that, right? We saw that live from that. Let me show it again to you guys. That was the healing, right? It wasn't bad. It looks like a support item. Some people would say it's a support item. It's not necessarily. Not necessarily. I would definitely consider going for this. The extra healing is really nice, but you have better like burst options depending on what do you value per game. For example, if I have a Jarvan and it can ult multiple targets, I would definitely grade for more damage instead of Crit Bloom, but Crit Bloom goes better if you have a Mastery, for example, so you can get more smoothly multi-kills, but Shadow Flame is also like very consistent if you have allies that already have damage, so you're very good at sort of finishing them off because your abilities will crit when people are under 35% HP, dealing 20% more damage. It has a really cool effect as well. Look at this. This is how the effect itself looks like. So it does deal 20% more damage, right? Which is definitely really good as a finisher item, right? Now Storm Surge, I do believe I showcased this already. Malignance, I showcased it already. It's not necessarily worth, even though your ult is AoE, just because it's better on like it's snowbally. That's the good thing about Malignance. I could possibly see it being a thing if you want to snowball, but generally it's better on champs like Swain, this type of champs, of course, like Swain, Corki, Kassadin, Serat and whatnot, that can actually multiple times reapply Malignance. But I could see this item being viable if you want to snowball and you have some type of maybe AP champs in your team. But so far I'm not a big fan of, because the damage itself is not too high. Now you guys gonna see that this does a lot of damage on my screen because I'm max level with like full items, but generally it does not, it's not that great in my opinion if you're not playing specific champs, you know, to get value out of it. Now Banshee's Veil, it does provide way more AP. That's actually a really good thing, and Anul has 30 seconds cooldown and not 45, which is definitely great. I even sometimes second item Banshee in very specific games. Say if I face like a lot of like CC and AP champs, this is definitely valuable. Mainly you're gonna take it the same way as before against champs that kinda like cock block you when you really need an extra like spell shield and magic resistance, right? Okay, now let me showcase. I really liked Horizon Focus before, even in Pro Play it got builded. Now Horizon Focus recently became more interesting. For example, it provides a wide radius amount of vision, while as before it only provided vision on the one specific champion, right? Now, it's not bad on Rumble because not only on your ult, but your E is actually long range, which means generally you'll be able to proc it quite easily to reveal a whole area. This is generally recommended if you have the type of comps that values the enemy champions to be revealed, which means that, for example, if you have a Talon in your team and you're poking with your E, perhaps you're throwing an ult in, it's really nice to see for your Talon or Kayn, for example, where the enemy champions are exactly pathing towards, so it's easier for them to see if this guy blast cone through this wall or this guy blast cone through this wall, right? So they know where to chase. Well, also for ranged poking champs, that like for a Lux, for example, or maybe for an Ezreal, just snipe someone, it can be really valuable. So it really depends on your comp, of course. Some champions really value lots of vision. Basically, you build it the same way as before, but note it doesn't proc on slows anymore. It procs only on ranged abilities, so that's one of the notable features. You still get the 10% damage, you get a bit more cooldown, but I think it has a bit less AP than before. Pretty much it works similarly, but better than before. But again, damage wise, it's gonna have similar damage to a Riftmaker when Riftmaker is stacked up, but it does not provide HP and healing compared to Riftmaker, so it may not be the best in extended fights, right? Now, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, not recommended, it's same as before, it's just shit. Like, it doesn't even make sense if you think about it. Like, how is a flamethrower supposed to slow? That doesn't even make sense, right? How's a flamethrower supposed to slow? Now, it's kind of a meme build, you can go for it in normals, but our ranked is just kind of troll. It just doesn't really like provides any magic ban, anything special but a slow, but your E and ult already slow, so it's kind of whatever to get that slow on your Q. Like at this point, just hit your E or hit your ult, you know, that's what I'm saying. But this item is very interesting as a snowbally item because it's so cheap, and if anti-heal from the item component is valuable, you could arguably rush it in some matchups, if you really want to stomp hard in Nasus maybe or something. Now, I think at most, like Lichbane, I think it's still not too recommended in my opinion. Don't think so it complements that well Rumble overall. And the Rod again provides just it's just kind of like Rod of Ages but shit. That's the thing about the new Rod. It doesn't provide speed anymore, mana is not great on Rumble, it scales, it's just not good. It's just bad. It's just bad. Now, are there any good items on the tank section? Most of the items are the same, but they are cheaper, which is a good thing. Not many items you would build. Sorry for that. Not many items you would generally build out of these tank items, even though you're looking through most of these. More than often they won't be too useful on Rumble. None of them really. There's not much that even like stands out of these items that you should build. So it's very rare if you would. I don't even know which item should I even recommend. Maybe Abyssal Mask if they have lots of AP champs and you want cheap MR, because let's say like Banshee is like very expensive, but it's like, I don't know, like there aren't many like tank items. Or maybe Randuin if they have lots of melee crit champs, but generally there aren't like too many like great tank items in here for Rumble. I checked them in the past, but all of these items are a bit like whatever. They're basically the same items actually as in the past, it's just they're a little different. But they are very similar as they were before. I even looked through support items, but there isn't really anything notable. Again, like most of these are just like support oriented items that provide you very bad stats. Overall, I don't know how to feel about these items. They are heavily unrecommended in my own opinion, because most of them are just like very supportive items. This does provide some base mana regen, which is not too useful. Now this is quite interesting, slowing or immobilizing. That's what Rumble does. An enemy champion marks them for 5 seconds. Allied champions detonate the mark, dealing magic damage equals to 12% of their current health and granting them movement speed. So this item could be arguably the only useful arguably the only useful item. on Rumble. The rest of them are just kind of like whatever. Now what this does, 12% of someone's current HP. It's kind of like a proc of, proc of Blade of the Ruined King, but I actually don't even know where to exactly fit this item in. Maybe as a support item if you play Rumble support by chance. It's a bit weird as an item because like you won't deal that much damage as much as out of other items, so I wouldn't recommend it at max if you play Rumble support. I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it when it comes to Rumble builds. So some notable new things. Did I talk about Caster's Companion? I'm not sure if I talked about it. I think I did. I'm not sure. Did I not talk about this? I think I did. But generally it's not worth first item with Caster's Companion, right? I feel like I may not have talked about this item. I'm not 100% sure before I... So this item again, generally wanna all in when it's charged up, but you can also proc a single charge as well. So it's on the ability damaging abilities, consume all shots charged to deal an additional 92 damage. To the target and one additional nearby target per charge, right? If there are insufficient targets in the range for each remaining shot, repeat the damage on the primary target. It's similar to Mastery Q. So this item is quite interesting. It has actually an interesting amount of damage. As you can see, like its damage is actually quite nice. Even one proc of this provides 92 damage. But it doesn't provide anything additional. Besides that, it's very similar to Luden's Echo before, but it can push out a lot of single target damage, while notably in team fights it's gonna deal some splitted up damage, which can be very similar to the other item, Malignance, but it's a bit more flexible than Malignance because this only works on your ult, while Caster's Companion will allow you to use it on your other abilities as well. As you can see, the damage gets sort of splitted up from Caster's Companion. But this is like the only like mana item I would sort of recommend on Rumble, just because there are so many like great non-mana items such as Shadow Flame and many others that are actually useful. Like right now Shadow Flame is actually great, so I'm not sure when should you actually go for Caster's Companion, just because it does provide mainly damage, some cooldown mana that's useless, right? So it's mainly made for damage without any other flexibility options, and it's not the best against tanks either compared to Liandry. But I think that's it for now, guys. Have a nice day.